How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. This is the final scene. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. This is the final scene of
Marky got with Sharon, Sharon got Sharia. She was sharing Sharon's outlook on the topic of disease. Mikey had a facial scar and Bobby was a racist. They were all in love with dying, they were doing it in Texas. Tommy played piano like a kid out in the rain, and then he lost his leg in Dallas. He was dancing with the train. They were all in love with dying, they were drinking from a fountain that was pouring like an avalanche coming down the mountain.
I don't mind the sun sometimes, images it shows. I can taste you on my lips and smell you in my clothes.
Hey guys, we made it. Listen, it is a big deal that we're live right now because you have no idea the technical difficulties that I've been having for the last 45 minutes. So I don't want to hear no one complaining about me being late. I had to restart my computer multiple times. Everything decided to break at the same time. I still think my computer is downloading some sort of update that I probably don't need because there's something going on that I can't figure out. But hey, I had to be live on the internet, and so here I am. Happy Tuesday, guys. We made it. We made it. We're here. And, this is not actually, I'm not actually even doing anything April Fool's today. Like that, my computer just decided to break right before the live stream. We are not doing an April Fool's Day thing today. What we are doing is we're going to be watching a webinar or stream or whatever the fuck this was. We're going to be watching something from the Transgender Law Center that they streamed yesterday at 7 p.m. We would have watched it live, but I had a community Zoom call and I decided I wanted to hang out with my supporters rather than watching trans people scream on the internet. So we're going to watch it today instead. The Transgender Law Center, we watched one of their videos a couple weeks ago. If you guys remember, the Transgender Law Center is where we found the emergence of one Heron Greensmith. Heron is someone that I first met when I was at my very first undercover job, gig, I don't even know, adventure. Heron was at my very first undercover adventure. I took a whole workshop from Heron about how to do opposition research. Heron is a non-binary they, them, and I kind of lost track of Heron in the intervening years. And then a couple weeks ago, Heron just showed up at the Transgender Law Center looking completely different, looking much more non-binary than they, them looked the last time I saw them. And so I was like, oh, Heron, you're at the Transgender Law Center now? That means we have to pay more attention to the Transgender Law Center. Isn't that fun for you? And so yesterday they did a live stream for Trans Day of Visibility, and I want to watch it. And so that's what we're going to do today. But before we get into the good stuff, we do have a couple announcements to make. If you weren't here yesterday, I have launched a new project that isn't really a new, well, it is kind of a new project, but it's also not kind of a new project. I am transitioning to focus on this new thing that I have called Decode the Left. Decode the Left is a way to bring everything that I've been working on for the past several years together under one roof. Hey, Bobby, no offense. I don't give a flying fuck what Matt Walsh does. I don't talk about Matt Walsh. I don't follow Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh has stolen my content and claimed it as his on more than one occasion. Matt Walsh is an overt asshole who has no original ideas of his own. I don't see, he steals from other people all the time, and then not only does he steal from people, he sends his audience to harass the people that he's stealing from. So Matt Walsh is going to be a no-go on this channel, Bobby. He can go fuck himself, and I think that anyone who is interested in things that Matt Walsh says should go actually find the original activists and the original journalists that he steals from, because he steals all his fucking content and all his fucking ideas from other people. So my recommendation is go listen to real people who are actually doing the work, not the paid fucking conservative shills who will steal from the real people and claim the work is theirs and pretend they know something about a topic that they absolutely know nothing about. So that is going to be my statement on that. I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, Matt Walsh, you should leave the Daily Wire. No, I don't give a fuck. Matt Walsh can go fuck himself. That's how I feel about that. I don't care if Matt Walsh rides the Daily Wire into oblivion. I don't care if Matt Walsh leaves. I don't care about Michael Knowles either. I don't care about any of those people. You want to know why? Because we are light years ahead of those people, and I don't follow people who are years behind me and steal my shit. They're back there. They're way the fuck back there. They have no relevance to me at all. We leave them aside. Anyway, and the reason we leave them aside has to do with this. Decode the Left is a platform where we are bringing together all the intelligence that we have been working on collecting over the past several years into one place, not only to make it usable for ourselves, not only to enhance the quality of our community, the actual people out there doing this stuff and researching this stuff because we actually care about it, not because we want internet clout. And then we're going to take this intelligence and we're going to make it useful for places that want this type of intelligence, whether that be colleges and universities or politicians and political campaigns or local GOP groups that want to learn more about this stuff. That is what this is. You can find out more about this over at decodetheleft.com, and you can read about it over on the newly renamed Decode the Left Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. It's my Substack. It has the same great content it always did, but it does have a new name now because we are transitioning away from the Better Discourses name, which was really just to prank James Lindsay. It was a temporary thing. And now, since we've won the war with James Lindsay and James is no longer teaching about the left and he's just ranting and raving about how he is surrounded by Nazis all day, every day, we are transitioning into bigger and better things where we do not allow conservative shills and paid-off grifters dictate what we talk about or the information we consider because they are beneath us. So you can find out more about that over on the Substack. Also, a couple new things I posted on the Substack last night. We have a new Woke 101 article up. If you are confused about what this Trans Day of Visibility thing even is that we did yesterday, and now we're watching more content from it today, you can head over to the Substack, check out the latest article in the Woke 101 series, what Trans Day of Visibility actually means. We also have the latest episode of the Counter-Revolutionary Book Club up. If you are not following along with the Counter-Revolutionary Book Club, it is a podcast and a live kind of like review of the most current dystopian literature that real queer and gender activists are reading. Last week, we read the Gender Accelerationist Manifesto. We do Counter-Revolutionary Book Club live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on this show. And so if you want to catch up with last week's episode, you can listen to it in podcast form over on the Substack. In all of the podcast ones, you can also find a video of us actually reading the document, or you can just listen to the audio-only version. It's entirely up to you. You can also find notes from what the Gender Accelerationist Manifesto says and the things we talked about. And if you haven't read the Gender Accelerationist Manifesto, it's crazy. And you can listen to it over on the Substack. Also, I've got the show notes up from last week's Socialism Saturday. As you guys know, we're starting a new thing where after Socialism Saturday, because that is our flagship stream of the week, I do a recap where I tell you the important timestamps to go to, and the important quotes to listen for, because we never quite know what we're going to get with Socialism Saturday before it. And some people are like, I don't have time for a 4-hour live stream, Carlin. Okay. You don't have time for a 4-hour live stream? Here's a list of timestamps and quotes and information, the most important points from the stream. And so now no one has any excuses, because I'm literally doing their work for them, and that's fine. I'm happy to do their work for them. And if you appreciate that I'm doing your work for you and you take advantage of these resources that I provide, please feel free to sign up as a paying member over on the Substack for $8 a month, $80 a year, because if I don't have the money to do this stuff, if I'm not funded independently by you guys, then it ain't going to get done. You sure as heck know Matt Walsh ain't going to do this. You sure as heck know no conservative influencers are going to do this. Why? Because they don't actually care about this stuff. They don't. They don't. They don't. But, oh, by the way, the Twitter account is updated now. Breaking news. Twitter finally let me update the newly named Decode the Left Twitter account. So that used to be the Better Discourse's Twitter account, and we're renaming it, and I changed the handle to Decode the Left, and now it has a new name and a new profile and all that good stuff, because, you know, I couldn't update it yesterday because Twitter wouldn't let me, but now it is. But I have even one more surprise. I have another surprise for everyone. Are you ready for this? I wrote a short story called Alice in Queerland. And I had to post it on April Fool's Day. I was like, people are going to think that this is an April Fool's Day joke. No, I actually wrote this. No, this is a real story. It's a short story. It's not that long. It's not like a full book or anything. Judy's already on chapter 4. I posted it like an hour ago, and Judy's already on chapter 4. That's how short this book is. It is a very quick read. And yes, Judy, you are right. Yes. I am indeed getting to be scary good at this. I am indeed getting to be scary good at this type of satire. This is my second one that I've done. I already have many more in mind. We're going to do the serious stuff too. But you know what? Listen, one of the things that I've come to, and one of the things that I've really been thinking a lot about, is anti-communist content isn't fun. It's not fun. It's not something people want to engage with. People think it's like work, and they're going to be pissed off. And yeah, you might piss you off sometimes. But we can make these topics interesting to think about, and we can satirize the left in a way that no one else is satirizing them that I know of. And I can't think of a better way to satirize the left than to write a story based, obviously, on Alice in Wonderland, called Alice in Queerland, and it is exactly what it sounds like. And I'm really excited about this. You guys know, actually, Alice in Wonderland has always been an inspiration for me. I actually have a whole bunch of Alice in Wonderland shit just sitting by my desk, because I got all this stuff. I went to the Alice in Wonderland exhibit at the V&A, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, when I was there in like 2021. And I've been always like, I have Alice in Wonderland t-shirts in the Unwoke Art Store. I have things that I've based on Alice in Wonderland before, because I just find the whole kind of like Alice in Wonderland universe to be interesting and quirky and theatrical and something that you can do a lot with. And I have this giant ass book that tells me all about the history of Alice in Wonderland, and it's so cool, and it shows like different inspirations and stuff like that. Anyway, yeah, the White Rabbit does have a they them shirt on. Yeah, the White Rabbit has a they them shirt on. Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to read my latest short story, it is available exclusively right now on the Red Menace Collective Substack. The whole story is up. Now, that's not to say there won't be edits. Of course, when you're reading content on the Red Menace Collective Substack, it is draft content. There might be mistakes in it. There might be typos in it. There might be things that I change later. I might go back and completely rewrite something. I might change the entire plot line. Who the fuck knows? But like right now, there's a really good story up, and I'm not anticipating a lot of changes. I do need to go back and edit it and reread it a couple times. But if you want to find that, that is over on the Red Menace Collective Substack right now. This is where I post drafts of my book before I actually publish them as books, and I'm absolutely publishing this as a book. I've already got like illustrations in mind for this. I think I might move the Queer Marxism book back to like the end of June for the end of Pride Month. So now I'm thinking that I should probably release this on June 1st for the start of Pride Month. I think that that is actually the best thing I can do, and then push the Queer Marxism book, the release date of it, back a little bit. That's not to say I won't be working on the Queer Marxism book before then. I still could get it done before then. But I'm just thinking in terms of timing. I think that we need to start off Pride Month in June, right? And I think that I should release Alice in Queerland at the beginning of June to celebrate Pride Month. And I think that would be really good. And I think no one would be upset at me. And I think that's what we're going to do. So go join the Red Menace Collective Substack. This is separate from my main Substack. It is a separate fee. It is a standalone Substack. It's $10 a month, $100 a year. What you get for this is you get access to all of my draft chapters before they actually become books. You get to read them before I give them to the rest of the world. You get to comment on them. You get to give me feedback, even though I don't like getting feedback, but you still get to give me feedback if you want to, and I'll be nice to you and everything like that, because I do value when people give me feedback, okay? You can also read the Communist Manifesto, a revolutionary fairy tale. That's going through a little bit of an editing process. Jennifer made me give it to other people to read, so that's why you haven't been hearing much about it. I'm waiting for my edits, John Morgan. Because Jennifer said, Carlin, you have to let other people read your book. And I said, I don't really want to. And she said, but you have to. And I said, okay, well, I'll give you a little bit of time, but I'm not going to wait all day. All right, I'm not going to wait all day, and it is going to come out soon, though. Soon. If I haven't announced it here, I don't have hopefully my birthday, maybe my birthday, April 12th, that would be good. So, the book is moving forward, whether the editors give me feedback or not. I'll tell you that right now. And so anyway, you can always get latest updates on the stream, on the Substack. And all that good stuff. And of course, all your support allows me to do this stuff, which I really appreciate. Last little announcement, as you guys know, on Tuesday nights, we do Disenrage with Jennifer, in which she will inevitably yell at me for writing another fictional story that I didn't let her read before I put it on the internet. That's fine. It's fine. Jennifer's allowed to have her opinion. But tonight on Disenrage with Jennifer, we're actually going to be watching the Alex Jones documentary, Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove. That's going to be at 9 p.m. tonight. I wanted to do something about satanic sacrifice and stuff like that. And I do have a bunch of videos that I found on BitChute about satanic ritual and stuff like that. But this seems more fun to me. And so this is what we're going to watch. We're going to watch it at 9 p.m. tonight as part of Disenrage. So if you want to come back and watch that, you are more than welcome to join us. All right. All right. Let's just jump right into it, guys. We are watching a stream yesterday from the Transgender Law Center, and they are talking about building solidarity across generations for trans people. And let's see what happened. And hopefully my computer will not blow up. Oh, that person looks trans.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome.
Nope. No. What is the difference between gay and queer? Anyone. Queer is not gay. You do not have to be gay to be queer. You do not have to be trans to be queer. I know this might be confusing for new people. We're watching something called the Transgender Law Center. That doesn't mean they're actually trans. It means they're queer. And we need to know the difference between those things. Because they're not just all a bunch of gay men. No. That's the kindergarten explanation. We do college level content here. So, exactly. Queer is political. Queer is an ideology that seeks to abolish capitalism by destroying the gender binary. Queer is anti-normal and anti-capitalist, correct? Queer is an ideology. So if you guys want to come and hate the gays, which I don't think my normal audience does, but every once in a while we get a riff-raff straggling in. If your desire is to hate the gays, go somewhere else. Most of the men in my audience are gay. I mean, well, maybe not most, but at least half of the men in my audience are gay, okay? go somewhere else. We don't hate gay people here. We do hate queer people, but not because of who they love or who they fuck or anything like that. We hate them because they're communists, and I'm allowed to hate communists, and that's just the way it goes.
I know that you all have had a wonderful Trans Day of Visibility. I know we've been holding it down all across the lands,
Well, that's not what
all
we're
over
watching
the
right now. Thank you.
globe, and of course, all over the interwebs. I've seen so many beautiful family members, sisters, brothers, siblings, and it is such a joy that even in a time where we're seeing continued and increased attacks on our community, our people always know how to show up with power and brilliance. I am going to be your host tonight for this amazing, power building, solidarity stirring, legacy loving ride that we're calling Building Power and Solidarity Across Generations. I'm Raquel Willis, writer, activist, and a proud co-founder of Gender Liberation Movement. And I am just one of the many, many voices that you will be hearing tonight. We have pretty much every powerhouse organization and group that you can think of across our community coming together to give you a whole bunch of sustenance. So this is not just going to be another webinar. This is a bit of a family reunion. It's going to give you some healing because we all know we need some healing right now. And it's also going to have a lot of strategy baked in because the people that you're going to hear from are experts in showing up for not only themselves, but showing up for our community. And we know that on Trans Day of Visibility, it is not enough for us to be seen. We know that visibility is a very complicated concept. We know it's given us a lot of great things. We have some superstars on our screens, on the covers of magazines. We have people on hit songs and albums like Renaissance, which we listened to as we got ready for this conversation. But we also know that we have to continue to fight for vitality. We have to continue to fight to shift the material conditions that are going to keep our people safe, resourced, honored, and free. So we are going to continue to defy any hateful leadership out there. We're going to continue to pour into our own trans, non-binary, intersex, gender expansive, and queer leaders and our own power. And we're going to use that to continue to build the world that our ancestors and transcestors dreamed of, the one that we deserve, and of course, the one that all of our descendants and transcendents deserve. And we're going to do what we're always called to do in these moments. We're going to resist, we're going to be radically defiant, and we're going to make sure that we love our trans and non-binary and gender expansive power more than anybody could try and snuff it out. So we're going to hop into our first amazing speaker. This is someone who embodies movement legacy with every action that they take. Candy Brings Plenty is Oglala Lakota, is Two-Spirit, queer, non-binary, and an unapologetic force for Indigenous and trans liberation. They're part of Transgender Law Center's Trans Agenda for Liberation Coalition and the first ever ACLU Indigenous Justice Organizer for the Dakotas and Wyoming. So let's give it up for the iconic, the powerful, and the revolutionary Candy Brings Plenty.
Hematakiapi. Lampe tukile I uhachante waste nape chuziapie. Imachiapi wakia tuampi ioyampawi. Imachiapi chante makilawi. I would like to greet each and every one of you with a handshake from my heart. I am coming from the Ocheti Shakoi, the Mini Luzaha Chesapa territories, which is located here in the Black Hills in South Dakota and I come from the Pine Ridge Reservation. I would just like to ask each and every one of us to take a moment to acknowledge the ancestral lands that we...
Hang on. I have a super chat. I apologize. Tolkien fan in with a $20 super chat. With a super sticker. Thank you, Tolkien fan. I saw it, and then I forgot to acknowledge it. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
We are standing on, where we are embracing our home, our full authentic selves, and acknowledge the success that was built on the shoulders of my ancestors, built by stolen people on stolen lands. So with that said, I'm here, I stated, to acknowledge Oceti Sakowin territories. And I'm really grateful beyond just having a day of visibility, but having a home in my own body and having a spiritual experience in this human body. So, you know, for me, I want to also identify that I walk with my spiritual armor. And right now, today, that looks like walking with our ancestral identity in everything that we do, regardless of the indigenous lands that we all come from, because we all come from ancestral lands. I want us to walk forward with that. I would like us to just take one moment here. I'm going to close my eyes and give us that moment to be visible within and be visible throughout and be visible authentically on these lands that we're standing on. So with that moment, I'm going to take a big deep breath and be thankful for that.
No, don't take a big deep breath. She's trying to hypnotize you. Don't do it. Don't ever take deep breaths when these people say to take deep breaths. Don't do it.
Wopila Tanka. In my culture, my language, I'm Oglala Lakota Sioux from the Pine Ridge Reservation. I identify as a transgender, non-binary two-spirit. And I am just so excited to be a part of the Transgender Law Center's National Coalition. I believe I'm going on my 3rd year here, almost 4, and I'm super excited to feel my own growth and acknowledgement of family throughout what that looks like. And I know that the work that I've been doing with the Transgender Law Center on the National Coalition has built a narrative through experience, through the pain and beauty of growing as a voice that is unapologetically me, unapologetically the full authentic power that we walk with every time we come into a room and we get to be proud of who we are. And that's something that I've been able to embrace beyond my own community, beyond just being a two-spirit activist, beyond being a land protector and a land defender. I've been able to put that all together and really identify with the trans agenda that we've been working on as the National Coalition. One of the pillars that I personally have been a part of is the beloved home pillar in this work that we've been doing. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, as an Indigenous Oglala Lakota Sioux, I kind of have this tunnel vision, you know, and I do know rightfully I do have the ability to call that in, because I can trace my ancestors back 7 generations. I can translate my own experience in my Lakota language and call the fact that us two spirits, us transgender and non-binary people have been on Turtle Island since before first contact. We have been here since before 1492. And when I stand in front of my tribal council, elevating, activating, and empowering these elders who are still saturated in historical trauma from the boarding school era, I remind them with the words I was taught, Hetiama Trumpi. That means I came from the other side this way. I came from the Star Nation as this being, as the spiritual power within this human home that I'm walking in. And so, you know, it's been an amazing journey because I have learned that I have these siblings now who are islanders. I have these siblings who come from extensions of what I've known as Turtle Island. Turtle Island to me has been, the land that is First Nation relatives up in Canada and Alaska, the tribal nations of the United States and Mexico. That in itself is physically a turtle, which is why we call it Turtle Island. And then we have our relatives who are continuing beyond that in North America, in the extended islands, in our relative Oyate. And like I was saying, I have been guilty of only looking with this vision of being a two-spirit trans non-binary person, but I got to understand and embrace the love of all the many cultures, all the other walks of life on Turtle Island who share the exact same sentiment of this is us and we belong here. We have been here. And that's something I want to embrace and share in this work that I've been doing with the Transgender Law Center, where we are calling out that environmental justice is also trans justice. It's also stating that we deserve to be housed and happy. We deserve to have clean water and healthy food. We deserve the human rights of having a home environment that is constitutional. We deserve all of the constitutional rights. And, I don't know if I can say this, but often I start my speaking with fuck Donald Trump. And that's what I wanted to start with today. But, I want to acknowledge the land before anything else because I'm Oglala Lakota Sioux. I'm two-spirit, non-binary, transgender before anything else, before I even open my eyes, when I take my first breath.
It's very important that we do the land blessing before we say fuck Donald Trump. Otherwise, the transcestors would be angry at us.
And, I just really want to acknowledge that we are a powerhouse. Even in this Zoom today, even in this gathering, we are standing here in this magnetic power that draws us to one another, as well as inviting our ancestors to lead that way. These transcestors who came before us before first contact. Like I was saying, I have very much been a linguistic advocate because it is within the words that we use. And I was able to pass tribal law stating in over the 580 recognized tribes in the United States alone, each of these tribes has their own languages. And we have words that is our oral tradition that archives that trans people have been here since before first contact. So, this colonial construct, I hope it does collapse because we were here before and we will be here after. Wopi Latanka, thank you.
Wow. I mean, come on, Candy Brings Plenty. You live up to your name. Thank you so much for bringing so much fire already into the space and for introducing, I'm sure for many folks, this concept of beloved home and what that means. I definitely think on this day, Trans Day of Visibility, one of the things we often talk about or are forced to talk about, right, as trans and gender expansive folks, are our bodies, right, and what it means to affirm.
Wait. You must be new here. Welcome, the random explorer, to our world. You think this is over the top? Bro. Let me invite you into our universe where we watch this stuff all the time. And so far, on a scale of 1 to 10, we're at like a 4 or 5 on the stuff that this is light. This is like an app. This is like an amuse bouche. This isn't even that we don't do the complicated stuff during the week. Usually we save that for Saturdays. But yeah, just wait. Just stick around. We will show you the craziest shit you've ever seen on the internet. But it is good to have that check-in, though. It is good to, because like once people get into our community and they start watching this stuff all the time and they realize how crazy it does actually get, it's like it's important to hear from people who don't watch this stuff all the time where they think this is crazy. Just you wait, my pretty. Just you wait.
In all of the ways that we exist. And you can't talk about affirmation without also talking about how we affirm the earth, affirm the world that we live in. So thank you so much for bringing us into formation. All right, so we're going to keep the fire rolling. Next up, we have someone who is going to remind us all that you're not truly intersectional if you're not elevating intersex power.
Oh.
And I'm talking about Erica Lorsbaugh, a queer, intersex, and genderqueer civil rights attorney and executive director of Interact. And Erica is fighting for intersex youth and advancing the rights of all people with intersex traits with brilliance and boldness. You're going to hear it now. Welcome, Erica.
Raquel, thank you. And I'm just so happy to be with you all today when our visibility feels more important than ever, but
intersex is a very rare thing that does happen where you are born, I think, with both male and female parts. So it is actually a real thing. And the intersex people are the people who they point to say, look, the binary isn't real because intersex people exist. Well, yeah, absolutely. Intersex people do exist. It is a birth defect. We shouldn't be basing our entire social structure on a birth defect. We should be helping the people who have a birth defect to live a long and happy and fulfilled life despite of the birth defect.
You know, I'm here
Or
to remind
neither.
us all that we can't be silenced or erased, and our existence and our resilience and our joy and our demands for justice and for our full and vibrant humanity to be acknowledged, these cannot be ignored. You know, although intersex and gender identity are different, trans and intersex folks have been in solidarity for generations, and our communities share many of the same struggles, and they can also overlap. Lots of folks like myself are both intersex and trans. Trans and intersex communities have also been historically intertwined in their fight for justice. You know, the US movement for intersex rights and for the bodily autonomy of intersex kids took shape and first took to the streets with the support of trans activists. You know, many organizations that were founded in that period and many since have used the TGI acronym, you know, trans and gender expansive or gender nonconforming and intersex, to kind of reflect the power of our shared visibility and the shared need to advance the rights of all people whose authentic existences defy these stereotypical expectations of sex and gender. And so, you know, we all come with different levels of experience and learning. And so I just want to, you know, share for folks who may not know, intersex is just a broad term for many different innate variations in a person's sex characteristics. This could be characteristics in their genitals, in their chromosomes, in their hormones, their internal anatomy, that simply may not match what's thought of as being typically male or typically female. Now, these differences in a person's sex characteristics are often identified at birth, but not always, and some variations may not be apparent until puberty or later in life. Some intersex people can live their whole lives without being aware of their intersex traits, especially those who are denied their right to bodily autonomy and subjected to non-consensual surgeries in infancy in an attempt to erase or change their differences.
Yeah.
You know,
what I will say is I actually do think that doing surgery on intersex kids, like when they're real young, I kind of think that that's bullshit. Listen, I actually really do feel for intersex people. That sucks. It sucks to be born with that particular birth defect. It sucks. But I also don't think it's a good idea to do surgery on those people to pick a gender for them before they're kind of like grown up and you kind of see how it plays out. And it's not an ideal scenario. I know most parents just want like a healthy boy or a healthy girl, and this is probably really inconvenient for some people, but you should probably just wait So I actually do have have sympathy for that. Well, if you stick around, what you're going to find out is they don't actually want labels. They don't want categories. You're probably confusing Democrats and liberals with communists and queer activists. Democrats and liberals want identity categories. Communists and queer activists do not want identity categories. They believe that identity categories inherently create oppression, and so the way to get rid of all oppression is to get rid of all identity categories. Queer activists, real communists, real socialists do not engage in identity politics. If you believe that they do, then you've been listening to the wrong people who've lied to you, because they don't. They explicitly denounced it. They've always denounced it. The people who are engaging in identity politics are typically Democrats or liberals or maybe some progressives, but the more left you go, the less they actually care about categories. So,
Our ancestors who took to the streets together, though, they knew that the goals and the demands of the intersex community and the trans community were one and the same. They knew that this was about the fundamental human right to make our own choices about our own bodies, the right to say for ourselves who we are and live our lives authentically, and the right to do all of that without fear of violence, discrimination, and inhumane treatment just for being who we are. Many folks don't know, but the harmful anti-trans laws and policies that are taking root almost always impact intersex people as well, because they rely on these regressive and narrow definitions of sex that are designed entirely to enforce outdated and unscientific, perfectly binary stereotypes of sex and gender. When they're applied as law, these definitions lead to incredibly absurd and incredibly harmful outcomes for many intersex people whose bodies, by definition, don't fit into these perfectly binary boxes. And on the flip side, many efforts over the years to advance affirmative LGBTQ rights and protections have not included intersex people until more recently. And this is a needless barrier to justice that the trans community has endured for far too long as well. The impacts on all of us of these hateful policies are making havoc right now across so many different areas of our lives, at work and in schools and in healthcare settings, in the forming of our families and how we walk the world
it's on
each
their
day.
end, not my end.
We're forced
Not
to
my
stand
fault.
up for our right to exist, for the simple basics of this promise, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But the core matter of this struggle is about the fundamental right to autonomy, that our bodies belong to us, who we are belongs to us, and there is no authority greater than ourselves about what we need in order to survive and thrive. Intersex activists stand united with our trans siblings and with the broader LGBTQIA+ movement, as well as the movements for health equity, reproductive justice, and gender justice more broadly. And I will say they can try to target us one by one, but when we link arms in solidarity and we move together, we're a force that can't be denied. I'm really proud to be here and to stand with you all today. And I want to invite you to visit our website to learn more about trans intersex solidarity and to become a part of the fight for intersex bodily autonomy and justice. You can visit the Get Involved page of Interact's website, interactadvocates.org/get-involved, where you can find tools and resources, and please sign up for our advocacy updates and action alerts. By raising our voices together with our allies and those who love us,
Hey, thanks,
we all just killed
Southpaw.
anti-trans and intersex
Appreciate
legislation
it.
in the Senate a few weeks ago. That's in this environment. The noise is loud, but when we speak up, we have the power to make a difference. So much solidarity with you all, and really thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. You killed it. And, as you were talking, I was thinking of this quote from Tre'vell Anderson, who is
Okay,
an amazing author. And
Southpaw, please feel okay. Thanks. What do they mean? Actually, Southpaw, it's interesting that you asked that. If we go, I'm pretty sure I wrote about this on the Substack. Okay, so if we go over to my Substack, Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, Southpaw's question is, can you explain what they mean by justice? I'm pretty sure, did I put that in here? Did I put it in here? Oh, no, I didn't. I thought I did. I thought I put justice in this section. Visibility means we want power. Affirm us means lie to yourself and others on our behalf. Don't erase us, blah, 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 all that stuff. You can read that in the article. I was all excited. I thought I put justice in there, too. Turns out I didn't. What do they mean by justice? When they say justice, they mean socialism. They mean Marxism. They mean, okay, so so fundamentally everything comes back to the hierarchy, right? The hierarchy that is created by capitalism is what creates all injustice and oppression in society. If there are categories, white, black, male, female, straight, gay, cis, queer, whatever the categories are, and this is why, by the way, queer activists don't like categories. People think they're engaging in identity politics. They're doing the opposite of that. They want to abolish all categories, because the minute that you have categories, you have a hierarchy, where one category will be above another category. They will have more power, they will have more resources, more money, whatever it is. So you have the hierarchy. How you get justice is you eliminate the hierarchy. You create equity. Equity means eliminating the hierarchy. This is the difference between equality of opportunity, everyone showing up and the best person gets the job, and equality of outcome. Everyone ends at the same place, regardless of their merit or their competence or the effort they put in or any of those things. Equality of opportunity will always have a hierarchy. Equality of outcome is equity. There is no hierarchy because there are no categories, because everyone just ends in the same place. It's a world built on sameness. So when they say justice, they mean eliminating the hierarchy. Inherently, that usually goes back to eliminating capitalism, because they believe that capitalism created all the social constructs that creates the hierarchy in the first place, including, of course, the gender hierarchy, which is where men are on the top because they have all the power and all the money. Women are in the bottom because they do the unpaid labor, raising the next generation of proletarian workers in the nuclear family, also called the patriarchy. The only way to eliminate the patriarchy is to eliminate gender, to flatten the hierarchy. So that's what they mean. Justice means equity. Justice means sameness. Justice means Marxism.
Thinker who talks about being non-binary, not living in the standard blue or the pink, but in the lavender expanses of life. And I think that that's such an apt metaphor for the intersex experience. And so I just appreciate you for making all the connections you just did. All right, so we are going to have our first conversation for the night. They got your girl working, but I am so glad to be in conversation with our next iconic leader. If you don't already know Mari Turner, your queer political education might be missing a few lessons. Mari is the current director of digital organizing and communications at Freedom, Oklahoma, and former state rep for Oklahoma's 88th House District. They like building better and translating policy when they're not baking with their nephew. So I love that little tidbit. I have some amazing nibbling, so we can keep over that too. But welcome.
This is the second day in a row that we've heard nibblings. The second day in the row, 2 different events, that's crazy. Oh, Scott, you're new. Scott is new. Scott thinks that if he just debunks the socialists and the communists, then it'll all go away. Scott thinks that the only thing that's required is to say, excuse me, did you know that's not historically accurate? Scott, we don't debunk on this channel. Do you want to know why? Because they don't care. They don't care. And I'm going to answer your question, don't get it twisted. But Scott, I want you to imagine what would happen if you went up to a queer Marxist and you said, excuse me, how can capitalism create hierarchy when ancient imperial and religious hierarchies existed 5,000 years ago and onward towards the ages? Do you think those queer activists are going to go, you know what, Scott, I never thought about that. You're totally right. I'm definitely not going to be a queer activist anymore. No, they're not. The answer is, and Scott, you'll learn more about this if you join us for Counter-Revolutionary Book Club, which we do on Thursdays on this channel. You can find back episodes of the Counter-Revolutionary Book Club over on my Substack, Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. I'm thinking of a specific document we read recently called Against the Gender Nightmare. Against the Gender Nightmare is a document that I think was produced in like 2008 or something like that. I'm doing that off the top of my head. But if you read Against the Gender Nightmare, what you're going to learn is that queer and gender activists believe that capitalism was created in ancient Sumeria, and all the problems that we have today stem from capitalism being created in ancient Sumeria, and that we need to abolish literally civilization. They call for the abolition of civilization in order to correct the mistake that was made back in ancient Sumeria. We read the entire document on this channel. You can find it. It's a 4-part series. You can find the podcast over on the Substack. But to answer your question, they believe capitalism has existed before any of those things. Capitalism is defined as private property ownership for them. You always have to keep in mind that how you define things and how you understand history means nothing to these people. Our job here is to understand how they see history and how they see the world, because we're not changing their minds through logic. That's not going to happen, and it's a waste of time and it's a waste of energy. And quite frankly, it's distracting from what we're trying to do. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I don't recognize you. I think you're new here, but I'm trying to explain to you the full logic of why we don't debunk, because it literally changes nothing. It has changed nothing throughout the course of history. Things have only gotten worse. They have not gotten better, and it doesn't make sense. No. Oh, no. Well, okay. We'll do that another time. I misread that. Never mind, San. Never mind. Yeah, stick around. You'll see lots of crazy stuff here. Welcome.
How are you today?
Hi, salams. I'm doing well, and if anybody out there who has just observed Ramadan, want to say Eid Mubarak to you. I'm doing well.
And by the way, I know there seem to be some new people here today. I don't mean to insinuate that you can't ask questions. I want you to ask questions. I just want you to be mindful of when you're asking a question to actually get information, and when you're asking a question because you want to dunk on and own the libs. I know the urge to debunk and to own the libs is strong. You have to stop doing it, though, because it literally accomplishes nothing and it just makes things worse. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask questions. Just be mindful of how you're asking them, because one is a productive exercise and a productive use of our time. The other is, quite frankly, just not.
Well, how are you?
Yes, Eid Mubarak to you. I am doing well. I mean, I think this was a beautiful T-Dov. I've just had my spirit elevated all day, which, we need these days right about now. So we're going to talk a bit about how care is our legacy. And I want to talk to you because you're someone who has done work on behalf of our communities on the margins from so many different vantage points. And so I'm curious about your perspective on what activists can do to make sure state lawmakers pay attention to their issues.
Yeah. Actually, Southpod, I don't mean to keep interrupting the presentation, but we chit-chat when we're watching this stuff. Southpod's making a great point. Owning the libs is literally going to lead to liberals leading in Canada. Who said this to Trump? I saw someone say this to Trump. I forget who it was. Maybe it was Sargon of Akkad. I saw say this on Twitter. If it wasn't him, it was someone else. But whoever said it is absolutely right. Trump putting all this stuff out there with, we're going to buy Canada, we're going to buy Canada, we're going to own Canada, Canada's going to become part of the United States. Trump trying to own the libs to troll them literally is leading to the liberals controlling power in Canada, where it wasn't going to before that. It wasn't going in that direction. And so, like, people have really got to stop doing this, man. I mean, we're probably never going to be able to get all the conservatives to stop doing this stupid shit, but, like, it really does make things worse. It doesn't fix any problems. It doesn't explain the problems that are going on. It just pisses people off and annoys people. Right-leaning people don't seem to understand this. It pisses people off and annoys people when you do this shit. It's not just the libs that you're pissing off. And Canada's going to have another liberal government because Trump couldn't control his urge to dunk on the fucking libs in Canada. And it's just like, you know what? What are we even doing? What are we even doing here, folks?
That's a really good question. I think a couple of things, right? Like as an individual, but also organizationally, we are trying to figure out what that narrative shift looks like for us, right? From doing so much policy focused work, and not saying that we don't watch policy, we watch policy fervently. But one of the biggest things I think organizers, activists, community members can do, right, is to show folks that have political power is that we're going to continue to show up for each other anyway, right? That we're going to continue to provide resources for each other anyway, because they don't care. They have shown us, right, that they don't care about rules, or power build or governing, right? Ethically or with a community care standpoint. And so I think it is really, really important to make sure that we are staying in our communities and we are providing resources. We are doing the mutual aid, right? Like we are talking to folks, because it's not just about the policy, but it's about how we survive it too, right? And that includes joy and community. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think just listening to you over the years and following your work, I appreciated how you always kind of connected back to the needs of your constituents, but also having your door open to those grassroots organizers. Because I know, sometimes even for me, I'm like, oh, forget these lawmakers. Like they're all getting on our nerves because we often just hear about, the ones who are doing the messy stuff. But there are ones that are built differently, like you have been in your career, who really see all the sides and keep that door open. So I want to thank you for setting that example. We're going to get a little personal, if that's okay.
Oh, good.
You are also a parent. And of course, you have young people in your
kids?
life. So
I had
can
no
you
idea.
talk
I thought
about
they
the
aborted all their
joys and the
babies.
challenges of being a parent who lives so boldly and authentically as yourself, but also just being someone who is an adult that has youth in your life that you're trying to set an example for?
Ugh, yeah, I think I would be lying if I said it wasn't a scary time, especially in a place like Oklahoma. I think the nation hears about our state superintendent of public education all the time. And raising a young Black child in Oklahoma's public education system it's scary. And so I'm thankful that I'm able to have a relationship with educators, but it's all like with the educators at our schools, and that's so important. But the reality also is, right,
The difference between conservatives dunking on the libs and me dunking on conservatives is I don't lose anything by dunking on conservatives. I lose nothing. I'm not trying to change conservatives. I accepted long ago that conservatives are never going to change and that they will inevitably choose the worst possible tactic. They have no principles. They don't actually believe in anything. And what they say and do is really immaterial to me. But it's not really the same as dunking on the libs, because conservatives actually believe that dunking on the libs is going to solve problems when there is no historical evidence that that's true. And so conservatives replace actual problem solving and actual research and actual understanding with dunking on the libs to feel morally superior, and they think that they're solving problems that they're not solving. So that's going to be the difference. I know you're just teasing, but it is actually an important distinction to make. I have no expectation that I'm going to fix conservatives. I have no expectation that me dunking on conservatives is going to change anything, but it makes me feel good, and so I'll do it. But conservatives actually believe that dunking on the libs is going to solve the problem, which is why they do it so much.
is that like I'm not only trying to set a good example, but I'm trying to make sure I'm creating a state, a place where my little one feels like they don't have to leave in order to survive, right? Say what you will about Oklahoma from the outside in, but I love this place. This is where I found out who I was as a Black trans queer Muslim growing up in the buckle of the Bible Belt. And I don't want to lose my state to fascist or authoritarian rule. So I'm going to be here fighting as long as I can. And I want to make sure that I am being an outward, not only an inward example of that, but an outward example of that for my nibblings, for my siblings, and for anybody else who's like, I don't know if I can stay here for whatever reason, right? But it's scary if you are a parent in public education, if you are a guardian in public education, and I am right there with you. And it means that we get to take bold steps together to make sure that we are taking care of each other. So
Yeah, thank you so much. And, I think with that, we have to give so much love to folks in Oklahoma, in the Bible Belt, in the Midwest, in the South where I'm from. I'm a Georgia peach, honey. So shout out to all the folks in those areas and also just rural areas, right? I think that, we don't talk enough about the different experiences in those locations. And how there are a lot of barriers to finding ourselves, but also finding community. So thank you for bringing that into the space. And I want to ask one last question. This was not pre-approved, so just roll with me. But I know that you like to bake with your nephew. Do y'all have a favorite thing that you like to bake?
oh my gosh, right now, he loves to bake pizza. Like he likes to do the pizza
Oh,
dough and then bake the pizza. So that's a big kick. Lately, though, this past week, we've been baking a lot of cookies, sugar cookies, oatmeal chocolate chip, regular chocolate chip. He's been on a cookie one lately. Yeah.
okay. So we have about 400 and something folks on the call who just heard that y'all know how to throw down in the kitchen.
Oh,
So just be prepared when folks are in the Oklahoma area. I know they're going to look you up.
Look, that's the Oklahoma community care. That's the Oklahoma standard I'm pushing. So if you want some cookies, let me know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight and just all of your levity. You're everything.
Thank you. Thank you so
the
much.
definition of
All
joy right there.
right.
The definition of joy.
So we're going to keep this love fest going. Next, we have someone who's going to let you know that the youth are not just all right, but they're organizing their own proms, honey. They are speaking truth to power, and they are leading right alongside us moldy old adults. I'm proud to announce a young person that I absolutely cherish as one of my chosen nibblings, Daniel
Nibblings
Trujillo, a
again.
17-year-old Chicano trailblazer from Tucson, Arizona, one of the
17
organizers of Trans Prom, and a fierce advocate for youth justice.
Hello,
Make
minor.
some noise for Daniel.
Youth justice.
Hey y'all. When going through some of the questions on the little document that they
Yeah,
all
okay. This is a good reminder. We don't make fun of kids here. Kids have been brainwashed into a cult. It is not their fault. It's a sad thing. I know this person's 17. You might confuse them with an adult. We don't make fun of kids here. Thank you, Reagan.
organizers of this really cool event gave us. One of the questions was, what was the hope for our future, and what do youth want to see now, and what does like a perfect future for trans youth look like? And I think I want to preface this by saying I have a really different experience. I came out when I was 8 years old, and my parents were super supportive right off the bat, and they did all these amazing things to help curate safe spaces for me. They went to my school. They went to my principal. They went to my school, and they made sure that I had the right to use the correct bathroom, that my teachers were using the correct name and pronouns. And when kids said something, I don't know, when kids were saying something transphobic, then it was handled. They went to my family, went to my tias, to my tios, and they told them about they just told them blatantly, like, you're either in or you're out, and we're gonna love and support our child. And so,
Yeah, if someone's coming out when they're 8 years old, that means they learned this ideology in school.
I have been grateful and lucky enough to have this amazing structure around this amazing support around me. But I think we see glimpses of a perfect future every day. And I think it's really important that in this moment we don't forget that.
Or I suppose they could have learned it from their parents as well, but most often it's like it's in school, it's like on the playground. They're teaching this stuff in school when kids are starting at 5 years old. This is why Trump's executive orders are so important, actually, around not teaching non-binary and gender stuff in school, over teaching that there are two sexes and there are only two. Those are actually really important executive orders that will at least throw some sand in the gears of trying to like prevent things like this from happening, because the reality is that all over the country, kids are learning this stuff in school from the time they're in kindergarten, 5 years old. So most of the time when someone is coming out as trans when they're 8 years old, it's because they learned it in school. Maybe the teachers reinforced it, the guidance counselors reinforced it, but it could have come from the parents too, but probably school.
Like Raquel Willis was saying, that I'm one of the 4 organizers of Trans Prom, which was a national rally and a prom that we did on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And we got around 150 other people there. And it was just a place for trans youth to feel loved and supported and feel safe in their bodies and feel safe in whatever they wanted to wear. And honestly, it was a bit spiteful too, because it was at the National Mall and we marched to the Supreme Court. We were like, we're going to throw party rats at your office window. You guys are not invited. And it was really amazing. And I think moments like that, or even when you go to the salon or the barber, you get that really amazing
Alex,
haircut, or you go to your grandpa and your parent or your grandparents' house and they support you and they love you. Or maybe you're walking down the street and you hold the door for some like old person and they're like, they use the correct pronouns on you. I think that's a world we see, and we see a lot of joy all the time. I think what has really made the difference for me, though, is that my parents were so supportive, and they really did a lot of effort to make spaces safe for me. They did a lot of work that, for me, feels like the bare minimum now. And what is really important in this moment is that we have people like my parents, we have our cis allies, our cis queer allies helping us in this moment. And I think it's also really important that for us trans folk that we remember that we see an amazing future like all the time. I also think that we need to remember to be in community with each other. It's really amazing that through my activism, I've been able to build this family across the country and across the world. And it's really amazing that I just have like cousin in this state and an aunt in this state, you know, and just being able to be in support with each other and be in community with each other, especially during this administration where we're feeling a lot of pushback on our own identities and all these things. And I think my main thing is that I just want people to know that we're...
Illustration Station says, our school DEI just changed the title to Executive Director of Mission, Vision, and Values. Oh, wow. It's kind of like when Trump ordered them to get rid of DEI. They just changed what they were calling it.
In the right path, or we're making the right choice, and we're getting to this place of a perfect future for trans youth. And we know what it looks like. We know what it feels like. It feels like a place where, or a perfect future for trans youth is where trans youth can get adequate medical care if they want to, where their parents support them, where it's not just an option that your kid is trans, but it's a hope. And that's a Jules Gill Peterson quote that my mom quotes all the time. That's another reason.
Jules Gill Peterson. We know who Jules Gill Peterson is. Jules Gill Peterson is a professor at Johns Hopkins University. We have Jules Gill Peterson on video telling college students to do it yourself hormones. Jules Gill Peterson is a regular speaker at the Socialism Conference, and apparently Jules Gill Peterson is running around saying that they hope kids are transgendered. I'm sorry, what was that, Jules Gill Peterson acolyte? Again, we don't make fun of kids. This is a kid, but let's just... I don't think, yeah. Mom quotes Jules Gill Peterson all the time. That means mom is a socialist and a queer activist. Jules Gill Peterson is like one of the patron saints of queer activism.
It feels like a place where, or a perfect future for trans youth is where trans youth can get adequate medical care if they want to, where their parents support them, where it's not just an option that your kid is trans, but it's a hope. And that's a Jules Gill Peterson quote that my mom quotes all the time. That's another reason why she's the GOAT, or why she's so awesome. Sorry. But thank you.
Just one more time. I just cannot even believe that's actually a real thing. I can believe it's a real thing, but I can't. I can't believe it's not just an option. It's not just an option to have a trans kid. It's a hope that we're going to have a trans kid.
Support them, where it's not just an option that your kid is trans, but it's a hope. And that's a Jules Gill Peterson quote that my mom quotes all the time. That's another reason why she's the GOAT, or why she's so awesome. Sorry. But thank you.
We have to find Jules Gill Peterson saying that.
Awesome.
We have to.
Daniel, I feel like you thought we didn't know what the GOAT meant. We know what that meant. We coined it, but it's okay. Daniel is amazing, and I just want to shout out a little bit about Daniel's role in the Freedom to Be campaign that ACLU is spearheading, and a lot of us in different organizations and groups have been a part of. He is one of the featured people, one of the featured leaders in that campaign that's doing a lot of work ahead of the U.S. v. Skermeti case. So I want to give a shout out to the ways that he shares his voice and his story and his power on so many different platforms. Okay, so we have a few more speakers and then we have one more conversation. So just giving you a heads up, stay in there with us. Our next person is someone who has fought for marriage equality, who has been building trans power in New England since the early 2010s. So they have been in the trenches on so many fights.
I don't know who this is.
She is the executive director of Equality Maine, Gia Drew.
Oh, thank you so much, Raquel.
Equality Maine. Okay.
And it's so wonderful to be with all of you tonight on Transgender Day of Visibility. I'm Gia, she, her. And, the first thing I want to just say, thanks to Candy Briggs Plenty, is just to acknowledge where we are here in Maine on Dawn lands of the Wabanaki peoples. And I think it's really important to recognize that as we talk about our growing intersectional movement. And it's, not lost on me on the heritage here in Equality Maine, and when I inherited 13 years ago when I joined Equality Maine, around how much of our work used to be so siloed.
Thanks, Reagan.
To the detriment of our full community. And we're trying so hard to make sure we're building relationships with all sorts of people so we can survive, and we can only depend on each other. And I think it's really important that we continue to recognize our relationships with all sorts of people, especially on days like today. You mentioned earlier about the complex nature of visibility, and I was reminded very quickly, 40 years ago when I was attacked as a teenager in high school for being me, and again this morning on social media for being me. What I've learned over those 40 years is I can't control anybody else's feelings or emotions about who I am. I love myself, and I believe in that. And I think that is the strength that I bring to this work. And I think all of you probably do too, is when we learn to love ourselves, we can face so much more. And when we're together, we can face even more. And I think that's the place we're in right now, especially here in my home state of Maine, where we've become, unfortunately, sort of the target zero of the ire of the current president and the federal government. It seems like every day there's a new attack on our beautiful trans community here in Maine, especially people and families in schools, in teachers, in doctors who love transgender people. And it's been relentless. But I will say in this time, our community has galvanized. Our trans community is leaning into one another, not giving up on one another, not feeling guilty about feeling joy. We don't know when this will all end, and maybe it'll never end, but we know that our community is our superpower and that we will get through whatever comes at us as long as we are with one another. And as people have mentioned, that we need to support one another, learn from one another, step back and take breaks when we need to. And we're stronger when we do that. You know, one of the other things I've been thinking about, especially today on Transgender Day of Visibility, is our legacy as an organization. And well, we've been around for 40 years, and I've been here for about 13 years and been the director for about 3.
Well, Maine isn't a hardcore red state. Maine has both red and blue areas. I mean, there are some areas like Antifa is all over the place in Portland, Maine, and it sucks because Portland, Maine's actually a really cool city, but Antifa's right. So there are some very blue areas in Maine. But I do think it's always important to note that people think this isn't in red states. It is in red states. It's in every single state. It's in every single school district. You are not safe if you live in a red state. You are not safe if you live in a red school district. Stop thinking you are. It's going to lead to your kids getting trans. It's not a good idea.
Every day is a learning experience. And I'm very humble that I come into work or I'm somewhere else and I'm constantly learning about how people talk about themselves or how they present themselves and what is safe for them and what is not safe for them. And I think what I've inherited is a really wonderful grassroots organization that has people on the ground in virtually every county in the state. And so I know that we have the strength, I hope, to weather this current storm. But I know nationally it's going to be really hard. And I think it's going to take all of us continually to check in with one another, learn from one another, learn how to sit back and listen, learn how to raise our voices, but also how do we empower our allies to really engage in what's important right now. And I think that's a challenge for me here in Maine and across the country is how do we make sure that trans folks can live their lives the way they want to live, but how can we engage other people in this fight? Because it's real, it's very scary for a lot of people, but I know there's some allies sitting out right now that don't know how to get involved. They're afraid of saying the wrong thing. And I think that's important for all of us is to find pathways and bridges to bring more allies into this conversation as we continue to fight for the rights of transgender people across this country and these lands. Here in Maine, we have 3 different trans-led organizations. So if you want to get involved in support of the work going on here, I think someone's probably going to share those links for Outright Portland or Maine Transgender Network or Equality Maine. Thank you for being here tonight to celebrate Transgender Day of Visibility and celebrating transgender people all over these lands. It's so special to be here tonight. Thank you again. Thanks, Raquel and everyone else.
Thank you so much, Gia. And thank you for reminding us that sometimes we are fighting invisible before we even want to be or are trying to be. So shout out to all the folks who have just been visible throughout their lives, right? Just simply have been too fabulous to go unacknowledged. And thank you, Gia, for all the work that you do. So we are going to go to our next speaker, another visionary rooted in resilience. We have Victoria Castro, who is the founder of T4T Empowerment desde un corazón trans. And she is an immigrant trans woman, a survivor, and a fighter who uplifts our trans migrant siblings every single day. Bienvenida, Victoria.
Hola, hola, gracias. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you, folks, for being here, folks online. I am so honored and privileged.
Does the sound really weird to you guys?
That I am.
Oh, it's being translated. Oh, God. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why do I hear 2 people talking right now? That was so confusing. Okay. All right. I'm tracking now. We're getting live translation. Okay. Can't just speak English. It's not like we're in America or something and Trump just made English the national language. You still got to speak Spanish.
I'm here today with spectacular, beautiful trans people doing wonderful work towards visibility and liberation of our trans communities and immigrant communities. Thank you so much. I am so happy.
Something. Muy taco, burrito, nachos, por favor.
And well, definitely to me as an abolitionist trans woman is very, very important to really center liberation and fundamentally support trans immigrant folks. That, you know, we need to be a people who live in autonomy and freedom. And personally, I believe that our gender expression and our identities should not be jailed. And that is why, as a survivor who is trans and immigrant, I do not want to allow to, you know, let the system draw me back to the shadows. And a lot of our trans sisters also talk about it. We will not allow any asshole to return us to the shadows. And it is so important to me to say that we are resilient people. And that is what really makes us be who we are. We have resisted a lot. We have survived through a lot. We have been in the struggle.
So I'm scrolling through my Instagram right now. I'm listening. Obviously, I'm still listening, but I do other stuff sometimes when we're watching stuff. I scroll through stuff on my phone. Scrolling through my Instagram right now. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is a shirt that says Hex the Patriarchy. Hex the Patriarchy. I think they also have one that says Sage the Patriarchy. They have several different variety of shirt that all say Hex the Patriarchy. Witches have gone woke.
A lot of us have gone through a lot of things. So it's very important to me to invite people to support the movement for liberation, because together we are stronger. So we let's not let people who are trying to kill us, who are persecuting us, to, you know, we are not going to allow them to draw us back to the shadows. So it's very important to really see that when we are together, we can do a lot. And this is why it's very, very, very important to me to say that those attacks to the trans and immigrant communities, we are so intertwined. And it is very important to keep saying that we are in the same struggles, because we are being persecuted by the system and people specifically that are trying to kill us and deny us fundamental services that we deserve and we have the right to, because we are human beings, and that's very important. So to me personally,
yeah, I mean, listen, I've learned how to deal with a lot, and if you're losing your temper at this, again, this is so light. I thought this was going to be much more queer when we started. We're going to finish it. We're almost done, but like, it's a light day, bro. Come back. You really want to test your patience? Come back another day.
I am scared every day, but I take that fear to be more empowered and to empower my communities, because it is very important to educate.
So Michael says, we're losing this battle right now, and they just keep portraying that they're the victims. They will always and perpetually believe that they are losing. They have to believe that they're losing. The revolution has to be perpetual. So they will always position themselves as the victims, no matter what happens, no matter how many battles they win, no matter how many things go their way. They will always, always, always do that, because, and this is actually a deeply held, they always believe they're losing. They believe it is them versus the world. They are the oppressed. Everyone hates them. They are the victims of everyone else. They really do believe that. It's not just a show.
And also to become engaged with the movements that are visibilizing our communities, and for everybody to have the same possibility to fight for the rights that they're trying to take away from us and that are ours, because we are humans. It doesn't matter if you're trans, it doesn't matter if you are an immigrant. We have to be together, and the rights are yours. And that's very important. Also, I know there's a lot of people connected today that you will watch the video after, and also maybe folks that at some point you sit and then you think, how can I support trans people? How can I support trans immigrant folks? First of all, raise your voice, support the movements, and also join the organizations and share your resources. That is so important that we do this. And also to mention, get involved. And you don't have to be a trans person, you don't have to be an immigrant person to become involved. And number two, if you are a trans person and if you are not an immigrant person and if you have a regular immigration status, do not be or do not go too far from the movement. I know that for a lot of us, we are able to feel safer because we have status, right? But like, don't go too far. Stay involved and let's support each other and let's stick together in the fight, because if we are all divided and in silos, that is not going to go anywhere. So let's be together and let's all be involved so we can share this truly wonderful power that we have in different movements and different areas of life, so we can help our communities. It is also very important to support each other. And how are we going to do that? In collective struggle, like I said. So me personally, I am in constant communication with a lot of trans leaders and people who are involved in the movement. And I firmly believe that communication among ourselves right now is very critical, because we are able to redirect trans folks that for some reason, maybe we don't know where the information is, where we can find a safe place, a safe spot, or a safe home where we feel supported. So it's very important that folks, like me, who got to this country without speaking the language, and that is limiting. How can we direct our communities that are scared? So it's very important for me to talk about all of this. And I also want to say, folks who are here and are visible, we will continue fighting, and we are not going to allow anybody to erase our history, because we want to build a better world for everybody, and that is the most important thing. And you know that you have to take that fear and really fight against what we have to fight. And like what I always say this to everybody, to folks who have a trans identity, live fully and live visibly, and never forget to be happy among this pain and among all these attacks, because it is so important for all of us to remain together so we can continue building this safer world for us and for the new generations of trans immigrant folks who will be safe. So that is it. Thank you so much for this space.
Yes, gracias, Victoria. And also just, shout out to all of our powerful trans Latinx leaders, all of our powerful trans migrant leaders. I am constantly in awe of y'all's power, and so grateful to be someone who knows of so much of the work that has gone into campaigns like End Trans Detention and Jotas versus ICE. Just so proud of that continued work that has been going on for over a decade. So if you don't know or have the tea on the huge fight from the trans migrant community, tap into it, because these are some of our fiercest warriors, honey. So we are going to have one more conversation.
Yeah, the reason they haven't said comrade is these really aren't. These are not radical socialists. They aren't. These are more like they're probably like DSA types, but I wouldn't say that these are the most. These are nowhere close to the most far left people we've ever listened to. The farthest leftist on the entire call is probably that 17-year-old, and that's because they don't know any better. And so that's why they're not saying comrade. If what you care about is her voice, then your priorities are fucked up. What's the backstory on the safety theme? Is it part of their oppressor narrative? I mean, so the safety theme is a way to position themselves as the victim in the situation so that they can actually gain more power in the situation. It's a way of inserting themselves into institutions. Oh, you know what, Jane? That's a really good question. I'll write a post about that for the Substack. I want to actually be able to formulate my thoughts on it because you're actually asking a good question, but it does relate to them trying to, in a backhanded way, insert themselves into places that they're not supposed to, or that they really shouldn't be, quite honestly. But I'll expand more on that. No, that's not correct. There is no difference between there. Okay. How do I say this? These are not trans activists. These are queer activists. Trans and queer are not the same thing. However, these are not the most far left queer activists that we've seen. They are more along the lines of a democratic socialist form of queer activists. That does not mean that they are not Marxists. They are Marxists. But calling someone a Marxist doesn't actually mean anything, and I don't like it because it's not descriptive. What these people are not, no, I didn't say they weren't radicals. I didn't say that. I said that they weren't far left revolutionary socialists. One in the chat if you think we're listening to Democrats. 2 in the chat if you think we're not listening to Democrats. 1 in the chat if you think that we're listening to Democrats. 2 in the chat if you think that we are not listening to Democrats. 1 if we are listening to Democrats. 2 if we are not listening to Democrats. 2. There's so many 2s in the chat. I missed some people. There is a wall full of 2s in my chat. There's not a single one. So Liberty Jack, the point I'm making is that you don't know as much as you think you know. We are not listening to Democrats. These people are not Democrats. These people probably didn't even vote for Democrats. These people probably didn't vote at all. These are queer activists. That is not the same as Democrat. They are not liberals. They're probably, some of them might be progressives, but progressive is about as far as we're going to go because usually these people are at least going to be DSA or worse, but these are not the worst we've ever seen. But the big point that you need to understand is we are not looking at Democrats, so I don't give a flying fuck what the Democrats are polling at because it actually has nothing to do with what we're talking about because these are not Democrats. And if you don't believe me, ask every single person in the chat who just told you that they're not Democrats.
We are getting our amazing conversation partner teed up. But I want to take a second and just thank our amazing host organization.
No. Well, no, this is right. I actually misread that. This is right. Democrats are useful idiots. Democrats and progressives and liberals are not a real threat that the right and conservatives think they are. Exactly. No. You're not fucking listening. If you're going to be on my channel, ears open. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about coddling any bullshit narrative that you picked up on Fox News. No. Okay, let me just do this again. 1 in the chat if you believe, as Liberty Jack does, that these people have taken over the Democratic Party. 2 in the chat if you believe that these people have not taken over the Democratic Party. So 1 in the chat if you agree with Liberty Jack. 2 in the chat if you don't agree with Liberty Jack. If I take the time to stop and explain something to you, I expect you to listen. Otherwise, you're wasting my time. And there's nothing I dislike more than having my time and my energy wasted by people who are not listening. 1 in the chat if you believe that these people taken over the Democratic Party. 2 in the chat if you believe these people have not taken over the Democratic Party. 2. They're not Democrats. They hate Democrats. 2. Not a single one in the chat. They hate Democrats even more than they hate conservatives. 2. No, completely wrong. I would never call the Democrats rad libs. You just made that up. We don't make shit up here. So, these people have not taken over the Democratic Party. These people probably didn't even vote in the last election. These people did not support Kamala Harris. These people were protesting Kamala Harris outside the DNC. I don't know how much more evidence I need to give conservatives that these people are not Democrats. These people are not in the Democratic Party. These people are not funded by George Soros. They're not funded by Alex Soros. All of that is made up bullshit. And if you believe in any of that, then you need to stop fucking watching Fox News and hinge back into reality.
Organizations for this event. We have advocates for trans equality, A4TE. We have Equality Federation, and shout out to all of the different parts of Equality Federation. We know it is huge and sprawling and doing so much work across the US. Shout out to Family Equality, GLAD, Human Rights Campaign,
this is
Lambda
all
Legal.
GLAD, Human Rights Campaign. Those are progressive groups. Those are not even DSA. Those aren't even Democratic Socialists of America. Those are progressive groups.
The National LGBTQ Task Force and Transgender Law Center, TLC. And thank you to the TLC fam for tapping me for this event. I want to make sure that we remember that we've heard from so many corners of our movement tonight. And I was joking earlier, but not really, about Marie being in Oklahoma, but we've heard from folks in Oklahoma. We've heard from folks in Maine. We just heard from a powerful leader, Victoria, in San Diego, California. We've heard from Arizona. We've heard from the Dakotas. We've heard from all over this country. And we know that our community is even bigger than that. So just want to continue to remind our people that there are more people with us and fighting alongside us than against us. All right. So we are also going to thank our different leaders from different generations. We have had elders, we've had the youth, we've had contemporaries to somebody on this call and conversation. So thank you all for showing up. And I think we're still teeing up our next person. So I'm gonna just let you get into the mug. I put on a little bit for you, not too much. We kept it light. We ain't gotta do too much. We're gonna be visible regardless. We know that. I'm also curious how many folks we have watching tonight, because we had about 400 or so. Okay, we'll get an update soon. I think Tori Cooper is here.
I am here.
Okay, here we go. So we are going to have a heart-to-heart with a sister who has been in this work for quite a minute. I'm from Georgia. You have roots in Georgia, and your work has transformed Georgia. I'm going to tee you up a little bit. So, you are a health and equity consultant, you are an educator, an author, and the director of community engagement at HRC's Trans Justice Initiative. But wait, you also were recently honored as one of the most influential LGBTQ leaders by Out Georgia. So give it up for that in the chat. Welcome, Tori.
Thank
I
you
would
so much,
ask
Roxelle. Thank you.
Listen,
first,
it's not disrespectful. I appreciate when people are coming to learn, so I appreciate you saying that. I don't consider it to be disrespectful. What I do need though is for you to listen. And if you have questions, that's fine. But you have to understand, you didn't come in here asking questions. You came in here making statements to dunk on the libs and own the libs. You are free to ask whatever question you want. We will answer it. It doesn't like, especially if you're new to this stuff, we don't mind questions that are like, are these the same? Like, maybe what you should have done is say, are these people Democrats? Instead of saying, these people have taken over the Democratic Party. No. Are these people Democrats? Are they even Democrats? What are we looking at right now? What groups are we looking at? What do these people actually believe? What groups are they associated with? So, if you want to impress me, the best thing to do is ask really good questions instead of coming in and making statements like you might hear off of Fox News, because quite frankly, most of the stuff you hear on Fox News is not correct when it comes to the left. What are the goals? Overthrowing capitalism, overthrowing the United States government, overthrowing the Constitution. They believe the United States government and the Constitution are both grounded in capitalism, and creating a Marxist society. That is the goal. Abolishing capitalism is the goal of every single thing these people do. Capitalism is defined as private property ownership. Private property ownership means your ability to own a home, your ability to own land, your ability to own an apartment rental that you rent out as a landlord, your intellectual property, your private businesses, whether or not your private business is big or small. The big thing is that parental rights are considered to be a form of private property. These people believe that children should belong to the collective. Your individual liberties are also considered to be a form of private property, which impact obviously many other things. So that is the goal. Thank you for asking a question. Marriage is a form of propertied relations where one person becomes the property of another. These people did not support gay marriage. These people do not like, well, maybe some of them do because these are more progressives, but far left activists don't support gay marriage. They don't want anyone to be married. This is why they're trying to queer relationships, do polyamory, stuff like that. Yeah, and when I say they want to overthrow the government, I mean they want to violently overthrow the government with guns. And they have guns. We know because they have gun clubs.
What's on your heart today for T-Dov?
So the very first thing that's on my heart is I really want to say how absolutely proud I am of you. You are such a shining example. I'm 55 years old, honey. I'll be 55 in a few weeks. You're such a shining example to folks who are coming behind you, folks who are walking beside you, and folks who are older than you. Thank you for everything that you do and how you show up in the world. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. That was on my heart.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I mean, I see everything that I do, everything that any of us do. We're just a bridge between the folks that came before us and the folks coming after us. I know that you believe that to your core. What do you feel in this moment is very crucial for folks to remember in this fight?
So I really want folks to understand. So there's a lot of stuff coming from all kinds of different angles, and it's rough out here, right? We will acknowledge that, we will feel it, because when we feel it, that's the only way that we can heal it. With that being said, I want to remind you all that as trans people, as Black people, as people of color, however you navigate the world, we've been through this before. We have. Our ancestors, our transcestors have been through stuff like this before. We will get through it. And I think it's always important to remember that. It won't be easy. It won't always look the same and it won't always feel the same, but we'll get through this. And truth and light must always win. And on this day and every other day, trans people, we really are the truth and we really are the light.
So beautiful.
What country would best emulate what they want or has no, they don't believe real socialism has ever been tried. They don't believe real socialism and real communism will happen in one country, because they don't believe it can happen in a country that's isolated as a communist country around capitalist countries. This is why they believe that real socialism has never really been tried. They want it to have it in the United States because the United States will be the first domino that goes down to create global socialism, global communism. Before you ask this question, these people are not the same as the WEF. The WEF is a completely separate group. We are not talking about the WEF. Those are Malthusians. Those are fascists. Those are not the same thing. When we say globalism, we are not talking about WEF globalism. We're talking about radical revolutionary socialist globalism. Two completely different things. Has to be global. The goal is a global socialist communist order.
See, you've done this a million times. You just get right in there and pull at our heartstrings. Thank you so much. Also, just what else would you tell to folks who are just getting into this fight, who may be new?
No, I wouldn't agree with this, Jane. Jane says the only way to heal it is to feel it. So this, no. This does not relate to their safety narrative. That's actually a true statement. That's just a factually true statement. You can't heal from things that you don't allow yourself to feel. That is just a human statement. So that is not a far left statement. That is a statement about the human experience, and it's correct.
And see the powerful work that you've been doing, the way that you have laid a foundation. What are some tips for them to kind of stay sustained in this fight?
So number one is hydrate. Make sure you're drinking your water. I say that jokingly, but I also mean that because it's part of self-care. You know, an empty pitcher doesn't have any water to pour. And so you always have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself in some way. And if the least you can do is drink water, then that's good. In addition to that, I also encourage people to pace themselves. There are many, many fires that we have to put out. Many. You can't do it all alone. No one can. There are some things that each of us is really, 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 really good at. Find those things and do them with intention and do them often and continue to do them as best as you can. Show somebody else how to do it. And that's how we put out all these little fires and keep them from becoming just the world just being on fire.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tori, for hopping in here. I know we only have a few more minutes on this call with you, but this conversation that everyone is consuming. So do you have a final word just to kind of sign off for our featured presentation tonight?
So I like to remind people that love is an action, but it's also a thing. Love is something that you give, but it's also something that you do. And so for each and every one of you, I want you to remember that I love you, even if I don't know you. I absolutely love you. I love you because we're part of the same family. The part of the same big dysfunctional family. Dysfunctional in a traditional sense, but functional in the sense that we know each other and we share a certain kinship and we know what's best for us, even when other people don't.
Thank you. Yes. And Tori Cooper is just a phenomenal leader. Get into her work, get into her legacy. And I think you're the perfect person to sign off for us tonight because you're someone who's worked between different movements throughout your career. You've worked in HIV advocacy. You've worked obviously in the LGBTQ plus realm, and you've built up an expertise. Have to figure out our own way to be the glue between different corners of this movement. So tonight, figure out how to be the glue between our indigenous leaders who are fighting for sovereignty and a beloved home. Figure out how to fight and be the glue between
That's it. That was so uneventful for the Transgender Law Center. Usually it's much more spicy than that. Okay, well, you know, you can't have a hit every time. That's fine. That's fine. We'll come back to the Transgender Law Center another time. And maybe it'll be, and maybe we did get some good quotes. They did have a 17-year-old on. Gotta appreciate that. You know, it happens. All right, guys, well, I do guess that is gonna wrap us up. Something I want to show you guys before we conclude. Do you guys want to see something I got? So, I got in a fight with the Groypers over the weekend. And I maintain my position on my fight with the Groypers. Because all I did was retweet Adam Green and the cover of his book that he's working on called, I think it's called The Jesus Deception. And the cover of his book is amazing. It's really striking. And it is Jesus, a silhouette of Jesus with a very pronounced nose. And if you follow Adam Green's work, you will know exactly what that means. And I thought it was a great cover, and you might not like Adam Green, but that image was striking, and I said so, and I'm not going to apologize for that, because I do actually consider Adam Green to be a friend of mine. I've always liked Adam Green. I've had Adam Green on this channel. I've been on his show. I hope I go on his show again. I hope he comes in here and talks to us again, because regardless of how he feels about the Groypers and how I, like, you know, and you know, me being connected with them and Nick, I actually do like Adam Green, and I agree with a lot of his ideas, and I don't feel like I need to choose. And the Groypers disagreed, and the Groypers wanted to try to make me choose, and the Groypers got really pissed off and started, like, saying all sorts of horrible things, and I was just like, you know what? Fuck you guys. And I blocked a bunch of people, like, a lot of people, like, I mean, probably a couple hundred of them, and I was like, and the real reason I did it, to be honest, I swear there's a point to all this. The real reason I did it is because I was like, you know what? You assholes don't even care about the sacrifices that I've had to make to support Nick at all. I didn't say anything bad about Nick. I didn't even say anything bad about the Groypers. I retweeted someone that the Groypers didn't like. And they lost their shit. And I was like, you know what? The amount that I've had to sacrifice to support Nick, the amount that I've had to sacrifice to support the Groypers, all the times that I went out of my way to stand up for the Groypers when, quite frankly, other people weren't, when Project Groyp got banned, how many times did I reply to people saying, when are you going to unban the Project Groyp accounts? When are you going to unban the Project Groyp accounts? Doing all this stuff. Groypers took over my fucking Twitter timeline for a while. I had to rein it in because I was supporting them so much and going so out of my way for them. And then I was like, you assholes want to tell me who I can and cannot retweet? No, no, no. No, no, no. No. That is not where we're going. Okay? And so I said that, and then they got really pissed off, and then I blocked a bunch of them, and they kept whining and crying about me and, like, whatever. And in my head, I was like, you know what? This is a good opportunity to step back because I have other things I need to focus on anyway. It's no shade on Nick. Nick hasn't done anything wrong. I don't have anything bad to say about Nick. If people want to watch Nick, I don't really care. I was just like, you know what? If I'm not appreciated, if all the times I've stuck up for you guys hasn't been appreciated, and you're going to have a goddamn meltdown because I retweet someone you don't like, then we are not in alignment anymore. Like, relationships don't work when you give and give and give and give and give, and the other person takes and takes and takes, and they never have any sort of sense of balance. And so I was like, okay, we've broken up. We've broken up with the Groypers. I was a little sad about that. There's some of the Groypers that I like. And I will say this too. There were a lot of Groypers that are, I won't say they're Groyper generals because there's no such thing as a Groyper general. That's kind of like, it's not really a real thing. But like, there were a lot of Groypers that did not engage in the pylon, that weren't assholes, and I want people to know that I saw that too, and that was actually very telling for me. Well, fast forward to yesterday. So I ordered this hat a while ago. This is something that Nick sold hats, and they have America First on them, and they have a flag on them. And on the back, it has Nick's initials on it, and it looks cool, and it is actually a good hat. I actually do like it. It does actually look good on me. I think it's my color. Black is my color. So I was excited to get this hat. I've been waiting to get this hat for a while, and I was excited when it showed up. But do you know what else was in the package? Let me show you. Let me show you what else they sent me. They sent me an America First pin. Well, but you kind of see, there it is. They sent me an America First pin and a handwritten note. And this is, I was cooking something when I picked this up, so that stain is my fault. But they sent me a handwritten note. There's also this thing that talks about thank you for supporting America First, but that's just a... They sent me a handwritten thank you card. And it is a Catholic handwritten thank you card. It says, on the back, it says, something, it's the Sisters of St. John. I don't know what that other word is, but it's a Catholic thank you card. And they wrote me a handwritten note. Dr. Borisenko, thank you for your continued support of Nick and his endeavors. Sincerely, the America First merchandise team. And I know all this was sent before I got in I broke up with the Groypers, but it was nice. Like, that brought a tear to my eye. I was like, you assholes took the time to send me a handwritten note. But then, the big kicker. This is like there's this little box. Got a little bow on it. What's in the box, you ask? A Groyper pin. They sent me a Groyper pin. I was just like... I was like, this is like the cutest little tiniest box ever. With a frog pin. And I was like, you know what the reality is? The reality is I have hundreds, if not thousands, of little brothers on the internet. You know what? Listen, I actually do have a little brother. I have a younger brother. I don't have a great relationship with my younger brother because my younger brother's wife is a psycho. And I will not stop pointing out correctly that my younger brother's wife is a psycho because she's psychotic and she always has been. And the minute that my brother started dating that woman and then eventually marrying that woman is the minute that our relationship fell apart. And I'm just a little bit bitter about that. I don't have a lot of bitterness for my brother, but he married a fucking crazy person. So I don't have a great relationship with my younger brother, and sometimes that makes me sad. I wish we could fix it, but we cannot in the current reality. And the universe has seen this. The universe has seen this scenario. And the universe has said, Carlin, it's really sad that you don't have a good relationship with your younger brother, so I'm going to deliver you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of younger brothers on the internet in the form of Groypers. And some of those younger brothers are going to be nice and funny and kind. And some of those younger brothers are going to be bitter, unhinged assholes. Because younger brothers span the spectrum of those things. But I was just like, I have been given... I had this taken away from me, but I've been given a ton of younger brothers in return. So even when I'm upset at the Groypers, because they were dicks... I mean, come on, bro. They did a fucking handwritten note. Who does a handwritten note? Yeah, and I don't have kids and I don't want kids. And so what's happened? The universe has given me an entire internet to mother. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. So thank you, Groypers. I appreciate you. You know, whatever. All right, guys, I'll be back at 9 p.m. We're going to watch the Alex Jones documentary about Bohemian Grove at 9 p.m. And so that's it for now, guys. I'll see you in a little bit. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.